When I was younger, I would get an assignment from school, such as a project or an essay, and there would be a 2 week deadline for each of the assignments. And usually the school expects that you would work a little bit on it each day so that by the time the deadline arrives, you'd be done with it. That's not what I did. I would wait until the very last day, not even day. I would wait until the last night before the due date, and then that's when I would work on it. Only then, like the few hours remaining before I go to bed, that's when I would work on it. You probably relate to me. Most people relate to that, where you feel like you have such a huge amount of time and yet you essentially waste it all just to try to cram it into the last few moments. But even then, in school or in work, for example, we have deadlines, we have due dates on things that we have to do. In school, you get a bad grade if you don't follow along with it. In work, you get fired. So we have to follow along with them. But in life, for example, your personal goals, nobody has a due date set for you. Only you decide the due date for what you want to do. So no one is going to force you to lose 100 pounds. No one's telling you that if you don't lose 100 pounds in 2 years, you're going to die. Nobody's telling you that. And inherently, we do have a deadline of our life, right? Eventually, we will die, but that's so far off that we don't even think about it. Right? I don't think about my death all that much. I really don't. And so that deadline, even though it exists, is way too far off. Way too far off. The solution? We can set deadlines in our life to actually complete our goals and or at least get on track to complete our goals. By which I mean, if you really do want to lose that 100 pounds, you really do want to start reading that book, you can set a deadline for it. So by the end of next day, actually, the end of the next day, I will read the book. I will read a paragraph out of the book, one paragraph. For example, if you want to lose weight, I will lose, let's say, 70 pounds by the end of the year or in a whole year. That sounds like a lofty goal, but if you actually keep working on it consistently, you will actually achieve it. Whether it be a day, like you just want to read one paragraph today, or you want to lose however many pounds in a year, just by setting that deadline, you are that much more likely to actually achieve your goal. But we encounter another problem when we try to do this, especially for big, lofty goals like the one we just set earlier. It's called Parkinson's Law, which is a law that states that the amount of time you give yourself to do something is the amount of time it takes to actually do that thing. So you've actually encountered this before, even if you haven't really thought about it. In those 2 weeks that they give you the assignment to do, you're using 2 weeks to do the assignment. It just so happens that you backload all the work into the very last day, but it still took you 2 weeks to do the assignment. So the amount of time you had to do it was the amount of time that you took to do it. Using that law, that means that if we try to set a goal for a year, we'll backload all the work in the last month, for example. That's horrible, right? We don't want to procrastinate over a whole year. We want to actually get it done. So now that we actually have a goal set and a deadline for it, we have to push the deadline back. We have to push the deadline forward, I mean. By which I mean, if you want to lose weight over a whole year, set milestones. So milestones, that could be in 1 week, I want to lose 4 pounds. For example, that's just one example. Set a weekly goal or even a daily goal for yourself so that you can still get the feeling of progress and achievement from actually getting a goal, but without the actual long-term commitment required for an actual worthwhile goal, like losing a bunch of weight. So set the deadline, or at least set milestones on the goal. These milestones will motivate you throughout the whole way, so that even if you start procrastinating, you still have the deadline of the milestone to think about, even though you might be on the first step of your journey and the actual end destination is so far away. But you still have a milestone right here that's motivating you just to get to this way. And once you get here, you have another milestone right here, and so you get here. And you eventually reach your goal just by the use of milestones. This is also why task lists work. I personally use a task list that every day I just write down what I'm going to do today. And it works because it sets a deadline for the day. Essentially, I'm telling myself that by the end of today, I will do this, this, and this. And that's extremely useful because I could be setting long-term goals for years and months, but really, I only achieve those big long-term goals by what I do today. And that is probably the best use of what I've taught you in this video. So the action step that I want you to get from this video to actually change your life, to take initiative for yourself. Get a piece of paper out, get something to write with, and I'll explain why in a moment. And write down one thing, only one thing, that you could do today by the end of the day. Only one thing. It should be easy enough that you don't really have to force yourself to do it, but hard enough to where you actually still have to try. So it's easy to do, easy also not to do. Only one thing. Easy to do, easy not to do. And because of this, you will actually end up doing that thing today. It could be as simple as taking out the trash. But what you're teaching yourself, what you're doing to your brain is that you're showing that I set short-term goals and I actually achieved them. This simple practice of just setting what you want to do in the day will actually end up with you reaching your long-term goals. But all I need you to do today, just to change your life, take initiative for your life, write down only one thing, make it pretty simple, and actually go ahead and do it. Don't go on to the next video. And if you still haven't written it down, I don't respect you. I'm sorry. I don't know how much that means to you, but I don't respect you. Write it down. And after this video, don't click on to the next video. Don't think of what show you could be watching. Don't think of the next video game you want to play. Look at what you wrote down, and it should be physical because you wrote it on paper, and go ahead and do it. And once you've done it, once you've actually did what you said you would, put a big check mark next to it, just for that little extra satisfaction. And now, after you're done with it, you've essentially taught your brain to set short-term goals.